if not, I'll turn it straight away
Ja, dus het zit er wel.
to Del.
Ja, dit is weer. Deze.
I think let's give applause for Peter for
Ja, Peter, dankjewel Peter. I help the organization.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me be as quick as I can. What time must I finish? 5 minutes ago. No, that's very unfair.
That's very unfair. Well, if you can do it as fast as possible.
Okay, I will do it as fast as possible. So let's skip this one. It's just says that's about a knowledge map. I find knowledge maps very important. So if you look at what knowledge management is, this is generally seen as knowledge management. These are the 4 main areas. The knowledge map, the transparency of the organization is always an extreme vital part of it. If you have that organized, you actually have knowledge management. Second is that of course you can also map processes, you can map projects, you can map all sort of things. So that's important. This is Nonaka Takeuchi. He's from more that area where they build the first definition of knowledge management, and I think it still stands out. I think it's very strong. Secondly, most important is that you have a business case for knowledge management, that the benefits are very clear, that they are benefits in the core process of your organization and not in a facilitation. You cannot make a business case for IT, you cannot make a business case for knowledge management, you can only make a business case for the proper core process in your business in the value chain, and then knowledge management adds value in that core process. Yeah. If not, don't do it. Yeah. Now the knowledge map is a very easy, straightforward business case within the knowledge management one. And that's a very important one. Now, where is that? If you look at a general organizational hierarchy, and here is a board, or this is the MT, and this is your, then basically you can say, okay, I have 3 separate business cases for knowledge management. An operational business case where you say the operations go smoother or more efficient or more effective. I have one that is more a tactical business case that generates added value for your team members, for your managers. And then for the board and for strategic thinking, it will be a strategic business case, and then much more you can say, well, this is where you set out your different goals, your mergers and acquisitions, your strategic planning is then based there. Let's look at a real life case. It became live 1 month ago. I was very proud of that. It's a huge organization in healthcare, so it's easy to tell about it. They have no secrets or mysteries. But on general, the type of patients they took care with, they had 15,000 patients over 100 locations. They said, well, we have all these different specializations. Look at that. They cannot talk with each other because a medical practitioner doesn't know what a pharmacist, a dietitian, a psychologist just doesn't understand the physiotherapist, etc. How can we create, if there is a problem with a patient, that we say, whoa, he is suffocated, let's see who can all be involved in understanding the problem, what is happening. So, first of all, and it works for all sorts of businesses where we can't talk about, make taxonomies on a high level for each of the strategic areas. Because people, if you see normally how people are classified and brought into systems, it cannot be based on the things they do. It must be partly on their specializations and partly on their general skills. What are the management skills? What are experiences with stress, with conflicts, with maybe negotiations, with mergers and acquisitions, with takeovers, with change management? That's general. Specialize, what they do know about specific areas of accounting, of law, of etc. These are different facets of that taxonomy. Once you have them, you can really go on. Then the taxonomy you translate in very easy questionnaire that you can fill in with a mouse. So within a minute people click within their specializations which are the areas they are good at. So normally they have to fill in a number of pages because these are general and this is then about their specialization. Within a few minutes, if people start to fill in a knowledge map, if they are young, they over-exaggerate themselves. If they're old, they become more humble and they say, ah well, You know, it's difficult. So this is on or off. They click, that means they're responsible for the field, they can be asked questions. What we found out is that within a few weeks, large and complex organizations can be mapped out, and we started to create very valuable data and information, and we could start to compare that and see how that differs. But most important, and first of all, on the operational level, we could create a knowledge map. It's a very simple one, where we actually say, well, this is a tech cloud navigation throughout the different topics that show up, etc. It's very, very logical and simple. We can search free text, we can do name searches, these sort of things, and you can put messages on. You say, well, this is a topic or a project or something I come across. It's to be seen by more or less people, that depends. You can request certain knowledge areas, and you have certain freedoms within the homepage. Then the moment you start then browsing through the structure, what will happen is that you say, well, every time I go deeper into my taxonomies, or I jump from taxonomy to taxonomy, the population of the result of my finding gets smaller, and I end up, for example, with around 16 people. And I can say, well, okay, if these are then the knowledge field of the 16 people, this is my short list of the 16, which most likely will be responding positive to my question or to my knowledge demand. Then what I can do is all very simple. I can save my query, I can start to send them a message as a group or individually, and I can start to create a community or whatever. I can search for a solution of my question. Also, I can pick one person out. For that one person, I can see the individual profile, and it's very simply built up. Personal coordinates, knowledge fields, these are the fields for your taxonomy. Yeah? And then I can say these are the Me Too buttons. So I can click on them if I recognize, hey, I actually have that experience. It's not on my profile yet. I click, oh, it's connected. Very important, I can see the people that have similar profiles. They are the lookalikes of the one that I thought would have been of interest to me. So I can actually create very quickly, well, these profiles do look like that profile. Maybe if I see what sort of responsibility this person has, I'd rather take him. Or you can be flexible. You say, do I want to set up a team, blah, blah, blah. Also, you can see if they are active in social media, if they have a LinkedIn profile or whatever, you can just extend that or make that smaller. Then there is, of course, sort of an expertise center. It's a knowledge base where you can upload white papers and articles and things, and it's all within that knowledge map. On a more tactical and a strategic level, it is important that the same knowledge map create dashboards, management dashboards from the knowledge, so where you can, for example, say these are of different topics, the totals of that knowledge, and I have to mask it all out because it's a real client environment that it didn't want me to show what sort of knowledge it was. They've been in the news a few times. And the interesting thing is that you now can see that on certain locations there is a vast more amount of experience around certain knowledge than in others. So for the first time you can compare, and what we have done, we benchmarked them by middling them on size. So if this is always the biggest hospital of that group, obviously they will always come out high whatever topic you take. Once you start to benchmark it, so you middle it out, you correlate it towards the size, then you can say, well, this one has actually extraordinary little experience where they are average size. How is that possible? I see differences. As management, you for the first time can really visualize, orient on your knowledge levels and say, what can we do about this? Is this a risk? Is this a problem, yes or no? And then you can start to seriously take action on that.
Sorry, the horizon line is represent what?
Oh, this is the average.
So no, the horizon.
Okay, these are the different locations.
All different locations.
This is the one topic. This is the true amount of experiences. So in this topic, there are, let's say, in a certain, these are different laws or different areas of activity. In one area is in this location a larger amount of experience. But now I want to see, is that because it's a larger location, or is it a serious amount of knowledge per employee? Is that higher? And that I can see in this benchmark. And the red line there is the middling. So you can see how they actually differ from the middle, and if I can explain that.
Boyd, how do you measure the knowledge they have? So what's the measurement in the lowest bracket?
So in the highest one,
Yeah,
what we do is the amount of people that has said in this area I have particular knowledge you can account me for. Then we look at the character of the location, the number of people, the number of hospital beds, the number of the particular area of specialization. So we middle it out that it becomes comparable. So,
okay, so you don't use any extra information, it's just middling.
Yeah, it's just the middling out on size and on character. So we have a few parameters, but we don't use extra information. And on that moment you suddenly see that there are some discrepancies, and then you have to explain it. And when it's explained, it's okay. But because it is a management information about knowledge, then you can say, okay, if I can't explain it, I follow it up. And either you take action, you make a knowledge development scenario, or you leave and you say, well, I understand why that is, and it will disappear, or we let it happen. Then also you can say that this is a little map of the Netherlands, so you don't have to go around anymore. These are different locations, and you can actually now see which different locations have in this particular topic what areas of knowledge, and how do they compare. So we also see them in general totals and how they benchmark. And if you don't appreciate the benchmark, then you look at the totals and you say, well, why is this location? I didn't expect that. I know the other information. I want to have clarification there.
Or that benchmark, is that a vision of the management that that particular knowledge should be there? Is that what you mean? Or is it a benchmark amongst the various groups?
No, it's a benchmark amongst the various groups, and then the management can decide to ignore the warning signals if they can explain for themselves that it is a strategic choice to leave that discrepancy there. Okay. Yeah. So it's not an opinion, it's a real measurement benchmark. Yeah. Yes, my friend.
What about the level of knowledge? I mean, in this knowledge map, you can say like I have knowledge about whatever, but is there like a scale? I mean, how can you say like there's this many amount of people that know about this topic, but do they really have that much knowledge?
Now, okay, now that is of course a bit of a problem, because if somebody, I ask in this group, do you speak Russian? And here's a young gentleman, 18 years old. He did a whole course of 2 weeks just 3 months ago. Yes, he speaks Russian. And here, for example, an old gentleman, and he 20 years ago already he lived there for a year only. So he will make his experience smaller. So what we try to do is that we put them into a discipline that they say the moment you say yes to a certain knowledge field, it means you have personally experience with it, and then on that moment you can also be asked to be responsible for creating a solution or be involved in innovation or whatever. So they feel, okay, if I click on, it is seen, and I have to also go to my boss and say, oh sorry, I clicked too much. But the moment we say I rate myself between 1 and 10, or somebody in management has to do a 360, or it becomes very complicated. So in this case,
I think that works. In the people finder we have a similar kind of thing. So you can indicate if you have a relation with another company or organization. But the reason that you can click it means you are able to open a door in that organization for your colleague. That's the only thing. Yeah?
And it's yes or no.
If you build it on such kind of simple things, then people start doing it. Because otherwise people start to question themselves, am I not? Because everybody here around the table will click on knowledge management. But okay, what does it mean? Sure.
Yeah, so and that's of course a very serious thing to look at. But the moment you do it taxonomy-wise, you split it up on a certain level where people feel comfortable that they say, okay, I say yes to these areas, I say no to these areas, and they feel it's in balance. Then, at the end of the year, when you have your annual meeting with your manager, they will look at the knowledge map and they see what areas you have clicked on, and if there are any of them debatable, if you want to extend it or change it, it will be suggested by the manager. That is a bit of feel. Oh my goodness.
How long do you...
Is I pressing something? It's not, it's not Philips. I can see it's another screen.
Boyd, how long do you need?
Let's say 4 more minutes. 3, 2. Okay, 2 more minutes. But then without this little thing here. Without this little thing here. Sorry, it's very important.
Drukken ze ergens op bij je presentatie.
Unpair and re...
I saw you,
Okay, yeah, it's back there. Okay, let me be very quick. Let's look at one application in a financial setting. This is a large accountants firm. I can't tell you more than that. I put ING on because they are the hosts of today. They have nothing to do with that. The idea is that the moment, if this is a banking environment and these are your customers, and you put an interface in between, you see, well, we not only share the services we give you, and normally you would be connected to a person, we also have some structural capital to present to you. Then what is very interesting is that a part of that structural capital can be in a knowledge map environment where people say, well, I understand there is much more services to get from this organization than I normally do. Also, I have sort of a freedom to connect myself in different ways with specialists, and therefore my relationship becomes deeper, wider, stronger than what I normally have, which is a one-on-one base. So my impression of that firm is different. That, of course, is based on a real business case where you can say, well, if this is Web 2.North sort of connection, this is Web 3.North, this is Web 4.North. And if you do a real business case where you do financial services with your client, then the levels of connections, who takes the initiative, what sort of transfers happening between information counts differently. You can also say, I want to know if this is a decision maker or just and there are so many different things you have to calculate in that the different services, the way they calculate to each other, gives you a serious business case on what a new interface and what social media will bring in a knowledge management hemisphere if you just sell your financial services. Now, that actually is then part of the total knowledge management architecture, but I understand I have to rush it, otherwise this would be really interesting. So I would say, we keep that. Yeah, well,
Nicely
too
put,
bad. So I skipped the questions.
Yeah, and we can go split up, and people who want to ask Boyd questions, you go to the other room, and Peter stays here with Edwin. So we split the group again into parts. Yeah. Yeah, Peter stays here, and Boyd goes there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Boyd. Pleasure. And we have 10 minutes. I'm so strict.